Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking something truly fascinating. We're going to look closely at the hidden mechanical journey of energy that literally sustains absolutely every living thing on Earth. Think of it like a giant cosmic relay race, where the baton is energy itself, and the runners, well, they're the plants, animals, and microorganisms making up our world. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see the natural world around you not just as a collection of creatures, but as this dynamic, flowing circuit of absolute power. Just 2 to 10%. That's it. That tiny single-digit percentage is the absolute maximum amount of usable solar energy that plants actually capture to power the entire global ecosystem. It's kind of staggering to think about, right? Every single forest, every animal, every human being you know, our entire global biosphere is running on just a tiny sliver of the sun's actual power. But despite this surprisingly small percentage, the energy these producers harness is absolutely critical. It literally sustains all life within our ecosystems. Section 1. The primary power source. To really understand this cosmic relay race, we have to look at the grand starting line. The sun serves as the primary energy source for nearly all life on Earth. The whole shebang is driven by it. Now, there is one rare exception to this universal rule, happening way down in the dark, deep-sea hydrothermal environments where organisms draw energy from the Earth itself. But for the rest of the planet, the sun is the ultimate battery. Now, to run this race, producers can't just absorb any sunlight that hits them. They rely on PAR, that stands for photosynthetically active radiation. It's this precise fraction of solar radiation that plants and photosynthetic bacteria use to perform their magic, taking basic inorganic materials and transforming them into actual food. And boom, that is the exact moment the baton is passed to our very first runner in the relay. Moving on to Section 2, the laws of thermodynamics. Because as much as this is a biological process filled with living things, even biology has to bow down to the strict rules of physics. So let's dive into this unidirectional flow. Sunlight flows directly to our producers and then finally to the consumers. It's a strict one-way street, and this perfectly illustrates the first law of thermodynamics in action. You know the one. It states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed from one form to another. So sunlight isn't just vanishing, and plants certainly aren't making energy out of thin air. They're simply transforming that incoming solar radiation into biological fuel, which then gets passed down the line. But here is where the physics gets really demanding. Ecosystems require a continuous energy input to maintain order against entropy. This captures the second law of thermodynamics perfectly. Entropy is essentially the universe's natural tendency to drift toward disorder and chaos. So to fight off that physical decay, literally to keep biological structures together and produce essential molecules, the ecosystem constantly demands a fresh injection of solar energy. It is a never-ending, relentless battle just to keep things alive. Section 3. Connecting the food web. Now we're going to shift your focus from the abstract physics of thermodynamics down to the biological runners themselves, the actual organisms passing the energy baton in different interconnected environments. The first runners in our race look completely different depending on the track. Out on land, in terrestrial ecosystems, the major producers capturing that initial energy are herbaceous plants and trees. But if we dive into aquatic environments, the starting runners change entirely. Down there, the producers are mostly phytoplankton and algae. Vastly different organisms for sure, but they share the exact same crucial job of capturing that initial 2 to 10% of usable solar energy. Let's track the baton and see how this energy connects us all in a very real, tangible way. Organisms are categorized into trophic levels based on their position. At the first trophic level, we have our producer, grass. It passes energy up to the second trophic level, to a primary consumer like a goat, an herbivore eating the grass. And finally, the third trophic level, a human, acting as a secondary consumer, getting energy by relying on the goat. This grounds the abstract physics perfectly, doesn't it? So the next time you sit down for a meal, just remember, you are the anchor leg in a cosmic relay race. Section 4, the 10% law. Okay, so here's the shocking twist to this race. The baton shrinks drastically with every single handoff. When energy moves from the producer at 100%, only about 10% actually transfers up to the primary consumer. The rest is just lost, mostly as heat. And when the secondary consumer eats the primary consumer, they only get 10% of that, which leaves them with a mere 1% of the original energy. The energy wildly diminishes as it moves up the trophic levels. It's an incredibly lossy, inefficient race, which clearly explains why that continuous input from the sun is an absolute, non-negotiable requirement for life to persist. Section 5, the decomposer recycling crew. Now we need to focus on the quiet heroes at the very end of the race. This is the detritus food chain, where the remaining dropped batons and dead organic matter are finally dealt with. Listen closely to this. Decomposers, primarily fungi and bacteria, break down waste and remains, recycling energy back into the ecosystem. These microorganisms are playing an absolutely vital role. They're taking dead biomass and transforming it into simpler, reusable substances that can be utilized all over again by various organisms. And what's super interesting is that this detritus food chain may not actually face the exact same strict limitations in energy transfer as the standard food chains we just looked at. They are the ultimate biological recycling crew, keeping the whole ecosystem from literally overflowing with waste. Looking at these two environments gives us a much more complete picture of our planet's energy flow. In aquatic systems, the ecosystem relies heavily on the grazing food chain to facilitate energy flow. But in terrestrial environments, up here on land with us, a very significant portion of the total energy actually moves through that detritus food chain we just discussed. It brilliantly demonstrates the intricate, delicate balance required to sustain life. Different environments just lean on different halves of the biological cycle to keep the energy flowing smoothly. So, we've finally reached the finish line, and I want to leave you with this thought. How does the continuous need to fight entropy shape your own existence? Everything we've covered today, the 2 to 10% solar capture, the strict laws of thermodynamics, the incredibly inefficient 10% energy transfer, it all applies directly to you. Every meal you eat, every breath you take is part of this unidirectional pulse. It's a constant necessary demand for energy to maintain your own biological order in a universe that naturally just wants to drift toward chaos. Understanding these dynamics truly allows us to appreciate the intricate balance sustaining life. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing.